She was sent to observe the humans, but what she found was terrifying. Talari sat alone inside her small black scout ship, hidden just above Earth's orbit. The stars outside were silent, cold, and empty. Her yellow eyes watched the blue planet through a glowing screen. Her mission was clear: observe the humans, study their behavior, and report back to the Council of Elders. She was not afraid. In fact, she felt a little bored. Humans were loud, emotional, and still used primitive machines. They had wars. They polluted their planet, and they believed they were the center of the universe. To Talari, they were no threat. This should be easy, she said quietly, tapping her long silver fingers on the screen. Earth was full of noise and color. She watched cities light up at night, cars move like ants, and people laugh, fight, and cry. Everything was chaotic, and everything was a human. But then something strange happened. On one of her many screens, she noticed a battlefield. 2 human armies were fighting in a desert. Bullets flew. Explosions shook the ground. She zoomed in on a young human soldier, injured and bleeding. His body lay still in the sand. His team had already left him behind. Talari watched with mild interest. This was nothing new. Humans died in wars every day. But then, the soldier's body moved. First his fingers, then his arms. His eyes opened wide. Slowly, he sat up. The wound on his chest began to close, skin knitting itself together like time was running backward. In less than a minute, the blood was gone. He stood up, looked around, and ran away like nothing had happened. Talari froze. "That's not possible," she whispered. She replayed the footage again and again. The healing was real. No machines, no help, no explanation. She quickly began to scan for more data. She searched for other reports, other cases. After a few minutes, she found another file, classified, hidden deep in the human military network. It showed an old experiment called Project Echo Flame. The file was mostly corrupted, but a few words stood out: bio-emotional weapon, memory-powered regeneration, field-tested. Talari's heart raced. Humans had created something more than just weapons, something beyond normal science, something secret. She sent a message to her ship's memory core. Report draft. Subject species may have advanced healing ability. Further observation required. Possible danger to the Empire. She looked back at the screen. The soldier was gone. But something else appeared. A strange symbol, glowing faintly in the corner of the screen. It looked like a flame made of binary code. Suddenly, all of her screens went black. Her ship's lights flickered. A soft voice, low and calm, filled the air. "You are being watched, observer. Please return home." Talari stood up, eyes wide. This wasn't her ship's system. It was a human voice. Male, controlled. Not angry, just aware. How did they find her? She was cloaked, silent, completely hidden. Outside the ship, one of the Earth's satellites moved slightly. It turned its camera and aimed directly at her. "They know," she said, taking a step back. Panic hit her chest. She was not dealing with simple creatures anymore. They had seen her. They had spoken to her. And worst of all, they didn't seem surprised. Why weren't they attacking, unless they didn't want her to leave? Talari ran to her control panel and began preparing for emergency jump. She couldn't stay, not until she knew more. Not until she could understand what the humans had built. She stared at the symbol, again, burned into her memory. The secret arsenal wasn't just a myth. It was real. And the humans were hiding it in plain sight. As her ship powered up, Talari looked down at Earth once more. Something had changed. Something deep. "They were never weak," she whispered. "We just weren't looking closely enough." And with that, her ship vanished into the dark, cold space, but her fear remained. The signal wasn't just noise. It was a warning. The stars looked peaceful from Talari's ship, but inside her mind, everything was chaos. Since returning to deep orbit, she hadn't slept. Not because she wasn't tired, but because she was afraid of what she might dream. The glowing flame symbol she saw earlier kept appearing in her thoughts. It wasn't just an image. It was a message, a warning, maybe even a threat. Talari's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. She replayed the strange moment again, the human soldier healing on the battlefield. She had watched it 50 times now. Every second felt more unnatural than the last. Humans were not supposed to be capable of this. Regeneration that fast required nanotech, advanced medicine, or something far worse. Emotional tech. But emotional tech was banned across most of the galaxy. Even her empire didn't dare touch it after the Soulfire incident 200 years. Oh shit, the humans had it, and they were using it. Talari searched deeper into the human military network. This time, she used hidden keys stolen from old alien archives. It worked. A door opened. A new signal began to stream into her ship, faint, broken, buried under layers of noise. But this wasn't human language. It was old galactic dialect, one not used in centuries, one that no human should know. "Impossible," she whispered. She decoded the first phrase. Her hands trembled as the translation appeared on the screen. "They are not ready, but they will be. If we fail to stop them now, no species will ever rise again." The words repeated, again and again. But then, something strange happened. The signal changed. It adapted to her system. It began to speak. "Talari, do you know what they are becoming?" She gasped. Her name. How did it know her name? She ran a check on the signal's origin. It was coming from Earth, yes, but more specifically from the Arctic region. Buried under ice. A forgotten place. One that didn't exist on any human map. Coordinates appeared. Latitude 79.4, longitude 140.7. There was something hidden there. Something old, something speaking through time and space. Talari didn't wait. She activated her cloak, set course for Earth, and entered the planet's atmosphere in silence. Her small black ship cut through the clouds like a ghost. No radar detected her. No human jets followed. It was as if the world wanted her to come closer. The Arctic winds howled like beasts as she stepped outside in her environmental suit. White snow covered everything, but below it her sensors detected a structure, massive, cold, and still alive. She began digging. Hours passed. The storm screamed above her. Her fingers froze, but she didn't stop. Finally, her hand hit something hard. Metal. An entrance. The door opened by itself, as if recognizing her presence. She stepped inside. The air inside the facility was warm. Artificial gravity engaged. Lights flickered on, soft blue and red. She expected dust, silence, maybe ruins. But no, it was alive. The walls breathed. Wires moved slightly like veins under skin. This place wasn't abandoned. It was sleeping. She followed a corridor that led down into the earth, deeper and deeper. She passed rooms filled with strange devices. Part machine, part organic. Some looked like old human tech. Others were alien. Even some she didn't recognize from any known species. And then she found the core room. In the center was a round platform. On it, a sphere floated, glowing softly, humming like a heartbeat. As she stepped closer, the sphere spoke in a voice made of many voices. Project Echo Flame, status, reactive mode. Talari reached out her hand. The sphere reacted instantly. It glowed brighter and memories hit her like lightning. Images, sounds, pain. War. She saw ancient human battles, not from this planet, but in space. Humans standing against massive enemies. They were bleeding, dying, but never stopping. Each time they fell, something inside them burned brighter. They had found a way to turn emotion into power. Their rage became shields. Their hope became fuel. Their memories became weapons. The arsenal wasn't bombs. It was everything humans had ever felt. Fear, love, grief, pride, all of it, stored, shaped, weaponized. Talari fell to her knees. How did they do this? But the sphere wasn't done. They learned from pain. They built power from loss. And now, they wait. She heard another voice, this time a familiar one, the same calm human voice that spoke to her before. You weren't supposed to find this yet. She turned around. A human figure stood at the edge of the platform wearing a black uniform, eyes glowing slightly. Not fully human, maybe enhanced. Why are you showing me this? She asked. The man didn't smile. Because we remember everything. And soon, others will too. The platform glowed red. Warning signals echoed. Project Echo Flame activation. 11 days remaining. Talari backed away. She had seen enough. She escaped through the frozen storm. Her heart pounded with one truth. The humans weren't hiding weapons. They were the weapons. The hidden facility in the ice, what was buried for 200 years. Cold wind roared outside the ship as Talari flew back to the same coordinates. The forgotten ice desert that now refused to stay quiet. She had seen it with her own eyes. The sphere, the memories, the truth. But something inside her whispered that she hadn't seen everything. The sphere had spoken of activation, 11 days left. What would happen when the countdown reached 0? No one in her empire believed that humans could ever be more than survivors. Even her own mind still struggled to accept it. But the deeper she went into their secrets, the more she began to see a terrifying possibility. Maybe humans weren't just surviving. Maybe they were preparing. This time, she didn't land her ship on the surface. She flew beneath the ice, using a narrow glacier tunnel detected by her sensors. The tunnel went miles, deep, perfectly round, too perfect to be natural. The deeper she went, the warmer it became. Ice melted off the ship. Steam filled the narrow passage. Strange pulses echoed through the tunnel walls, like a sleeping heart slowly waking up. Someone built this. A long time ago. When she finally reached the bottom, her ship stopped, in front of a massive door. It was black and smooth with no seams, no handles, no locks, but it opened for her anyway. Again, it recognized her. Talari stepped out. The chamber beyond was vast, larger than any base she had seen on Earth. And it wasn't made by human hands alone. The architecture was mixed. Alien shapes merged with human designs. There were marks from at least 6 different species. Some extinct. This place, it's not just human. It's a graveyard of knowledge. As she moved deeper into the facility, she passed walls filled with strange carvings. They told stories, human stories, but told in alien languages. Wars, losses, desperate battles in distant stars. Species that humans had fought alongside, or against. And at the center of it all, a single figure, a human, always the same. Standing at the end of each story, sometimes bleeding, sometimes burning, but always standing. Then, she entered the memory hall. Here, rows of black capsules floated in the air. Each capsule held a glowing light like a small soul. A screen next to each one showed a name, a face, and a feeling. Private Daniel J. Fear, held inside for 3 minutes before charging the enemy. Dr. Mia R. Grief, after losing her entire hospital to an airstrike. Captain, Lai Love, kept alive during last stand on Jupiter Station. Talari walked between the memories, speechless. Each emotion had been captured. Not by force, not by machines, but willingly, by the humans themselves. They gave their pain to protect their future. It wasn't technology. It was something far deeper, something almost sacred. Suddenly an alarm echoed. The chamber turned red. A voice spoke, different from before, not calm, not warning. This time it sounded afraid. Intruder in core section. Defense systems. Unlocked. Talari froze. She wasn't alone. From the far end of the hall, something moved. Not a human, not a robot. Something made of armor, memories, and pain. A machine powered by emotion itself. It walked like a soldier, But its body changed with every step, sometimes glowing with rage, sometimes shadowed by sadness. Its eyes were bright blue, cold, and ancient. It stopped in front of her, scanned her. "You are not human," it said. "No," she replied quietly. "But I came to understand you." "Understanding comes after war," it replied. "Not before." She raised her hands. "I don't want war." The machine stared for a moment. "Then listen." Suddenly, her mind was filled with memories, not hers, but from the arsenal. She saw burning cities, falling ships, dying children, planets abandoned, entire civilizations begging for help, and every time, humans were there, not with fleets, not with power, but with memories, sharing what it meant to fight, to fear, to hope. They passed their pain to others, helping them stand again, and those who accepted it survived. Then she saw the truth. The arsenal wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to protect, but it was only unlocked when humanity felt truly threatened. And now, something was coming. Something the humans had seen before. Something even they had feared. She saw the shape of it. Black, shifting, endless. Not a species, not an empire. A hunger. Something that devoured emotion. That erased memory. That fed on stories until nothing was left. And humans had built the arsenal not to rule the galaxy, but to save it. The memory ended. The machine turned away. "You are free to go," it said. "Warn your people, or don't. It won't matter. When it arrives, only those who remember who they are will survive." Talari walked back through the chamber in silence. Her hands were shaking, her mind filled with fire and ice. They hadn't just buried a weapon here. They had buried the truth. And now, it was waking up. The arsenal isn't a weapon. It's worse. Talari sat alone in her ship high above the earth. Space was quiet, but her mind was not. She had seen it. She had walked through the halls beneath the ice, had touched the memories, had heard the voices of long-dead humans whisper truths she wasn't supposed to know. And now she understood something her empire never would. The arsenal wasn't just powerful. It was dangerous in a way that couldn't be measured. Not because it could destroy ships, not because it could erase cities, but because it could change the soul. Her report remained unfinished. She couldn't send it. Not yet. What would she write? Humans turned emotion into energy. They store grief and use it as power. They built a machine that runs on love, pain, and memory. No one would believe her. Even she barely believed it. And she had touched it. But there was something worse. She had brought something back with her. Not physical, not data, a memory. A single human thought that refused to leave her mind. It wasn't an image or a message. It was a feeling, guilt. A young human's last memory before death stored in the arsenal like a whisper. "I should have stayed. I should have held the line. They died because I ran." It replayed in her mind without stopping. Talari had never felt this kind of guilt before. Her species didn't hold memories this way. They remembered facts, actions, but not emotion. Now, for the first time in her life, she felt like she couldn't breathe. She ran a scan on her ship. A strange reading appeared. A small signal buried deep in her ship's memory system. Something had attached itself to her ship during her time inside the facility. She followed the code. It wasn't malware. It wasn't a virus. It was a message. A voice spoke again. His voice, the one who had appeared before. "You felt it, didn't you?" She didn't answer. The voice continued. "You think it's a weapon. It's not. Weapons are tools. This is something else. This is the cost of survival." Talari clenched her jaw. "You built a machine that feeds on pain." "No," the voice said. "We didn't feed it. We gave it freely. It only works because we remember." Images flashed on her screen: a mother holding her dying child in war, a pilot locking himself inside a ship to stop an alien fleet, a doctor treating patients after losing her own family. They were not just stories. They were power, and every story, every pain, had been shared, stored inside the arsenal. Humans had weaponized their own hearts. But then the voice grew darker. "You think we built this to fight you?" he asked. "We didn't." A pause. "We built it to fight what's coming." Talari's heart stopped. "The thing beneath the void," the voice said. "The eater of memory. The one that turns species into ghosts. We saw it once. Long ago. We survived. Barely. And we swore never again." She saw an image. Dark space folding. Stars going out like candles. Whole worlds disappearing. Not destroyed. Forgotten. No screams. No wreckage. Just silence. A galaxy with empty planets. And no record that life had ever existed there. Talari felt cold all over. The arsenal wasn't built to win a war. It was built to stop oblivion. To hold the stories of humanity so tightly that no force, not even death, could erase them. She stood in her ship and stared at Earth below. For centuries, her empire had watched this planet with curiosity, fear, sometimes pity. They thought humans were dangerous because of their guns, their wild nature, their unpredictable choices. But they were wrong. Humans were dangerous because they refused to forget. They carried every loss, every scar, and turned it into strength. They mourned, and then they fought. And now they had built something terrifying, a memory so powerful it could burn the void itself. The signal ended, but her ship's systems showed a new countdown. 10 days left. Activation was coming. She looked at her hands. They were shaking, not from fear of humans, but from fear of what would force humans to use the arsenal in full power. Whatever it was coming. And when it arrived, it would face something the galaxy had never seen before. An army made of grief. A weapon made of love, and a planet that refused to be forgotten. They tried to copy human power. It backfired. Space is not silent when fear spreads. Signals fly. Whispers turn into reports, and curiosity becomes danger. It began with a stolen file. A small data packet leaked from Talari's scout ship after her return. It was encrypted, but not enough. Inside was a glimpse, just a glimpse of Project Echo Flame. And that was enough. Across the galaxy, 3 of the most powerful alien empires read the file. They didn't understand it. But they understood 2 things. Humans had something powerful, and they were planning to use it. The Jareth Alliance, proud and ruthless, sent a stealth team to Earth's orbit. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't send a message. They came to take the arsenal. Talari watched their ships arrive from her outpost above Earth. She recognized their markings. Elite intelligence craft equipped with psychic shields and emotional dampeners, designed to block anything that could affect the mind. But she knew already, they were not ready. She activated a hidden comm link, the same one that had once echoed the human voice. "They're here," she whispered. The reply was instant. "Let them in." Deep below the ice, the arsenal began to stir. The facility, once dormant, opened like a living thing. Walls shifted, lights pulsed, systems activated. The Jareth broke through with ease. They were fast, silent, confident. They walked into the memory hall and began copying data, pulling out glowing memory capsules, disconnecting files, scanning emotional imprints. "Such primitive data," one of them said, holding a capsule. "Fear, loss, sorrow. What kind of power is this?" They didn't understand, and that was their first mistake. As they copied more memories, the air began to change. One of the soldiers, Jareth Commander Dalzar, felt something strange in his mind. A voice, soft, distant. He was 12. He didn't want to die, but he held the door anyway. Dalzar shook his head. What was that? Another voice came. She burned alive in a station fire. She never screamed. The Jareth's psychic shields began to fail. The memories weren't just being read, they were pushing back. Talari, still orbiting above, watched the footage from a secret uplink. She saw the Zharath start to panic. First, one dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. Then another began screaming in his native tongue. One turned his gun on his own team. They had opened the arsenal, but the arsenal was not passive. It reflected what you brought into it. They came with arrogance. The arsenal showed them humility. They came with cruelty. The arsenal gave them guilt. They came to steal power. The arsenal made them feel the cost of it. Inside the facility, the last soldier ran toward the exit, but the doors were already closed. A voice echoed across the chamber, calm and cold. You came to take our pain. Now you will carry it. The lights turned red. A wave of emotion hit the soldier. Millions of memories flooding at once. Death, hope, fear, strength, love, regret. He dropped, unconscious, with tears streaming from his alien eyes. Hours later, a single ship returned to the Zharath Alliance. It drifted, damaged, silent. When they opened the door, they found only one survivor. His mind had broken. His final words before collapsing into a coma. They bleed. And then they fight. And they never stop. News spread fast. Other empires listened, and they feared. But fear didn't stop them. The Krenthar Dominion tried next. They believed the Zharath had failed, because they lacked psychic training. So the Krenthar sent philosophers, mind readers, monks, experts in soul reading and ancient energy. They too entered the arsenal. They too touched the memories. And they too came out broken. But in a different way. They didn't scream. They wept, because for the first time, they felt what it meant to be human. They felt what it meant to lose a child, to stand alone, to love someone and watch them die, to hope in the dark. And when they left Earth, they said nothing. No attack, no theft, just silence. Talari watched all this from orbit, and she finally understood the final truth. The arsenal wasn't built to defend humans from aliens. It was built to test them, to test everyone, not who was strong, but who could carry the memory of pain and not break. She looked again at Earth. The planet looked quiet. Blue oceans, green forests, cities filled with life. They looked ordinary, fragile, but they weren't. Humans had turned pain into a mirror, and when others looked into it, they saw their true face. The countdown continued. Days left. Whatever the arsenal was preparing for, it hadn't started yet. But something was coming. Something only memory could fight. And when it arrived, it would either be erased or finally meet something it couldn't consume. She must choose. Her empire or the humans. Talair had seen enough. War machines breaking under sorrow. Armies falling before memory. Empires retreating. Not from guns, but from grief. Humans hadn't built a weapon. They had built a test. One that no empire had passed. And now, it was her turn. The grand hall of the Redanth Empire was silent. Hundreds of tall silver beings stood in a circle. Their skin shimmered with neural implants. Their robes glowed with shifting lights. In the center stood Talari. Before her, the Council of Memory waited. Elders who had ruled for 600 years. Judges of truth. Guardians of tradition. She had returned from Earth. She had returned with secrets, but she had not returned alone. Something inside her had changed. You went without full sanction, one elder said. His voice was low and cold. You entered their memory core. You touched the weapon. Talari stood tall. It's not a weapon. Another elder leaned forward. Then what is it? Talari paused. How do you explain something built from the death of children, the sacrifice of heroes, the quiet strength of mothers who held on through fire? How do you explain pain that remembers itself? It's their history, she finally said. But alive. The council didn't speak for several seconds. Then, the Prime Elder narrowed his eyes. Do they plan to use it against us? Talari shook her head. No, They don't want war. But they're preparing for something worse, something ancient. She uploaded a memory, a glimpse of the void being she had seen, the eater of stories, the destroyer of identity, a darkness that didn't kill but erased. Gasps echoed in the room. This can't be real, one elder whispered. It is, Talari said. The humans saw it long ago, and they built the arsenal to protect what it cannot destroy, meaning. But then came the moment she had feared, the final question. The council stood. You've lived among them, you've studied them. Now we ask, where do your loyalties stand? Talari's chest felt tight. If she said with the humans, she would be branded a traitor. Her family, her rank, her name, all gone. If she said with the Empire, she would be sent back to Earth to help shut the arsenal down, but she couldn't lie. Not anymore. Her mind returned to the child's memory still echoing inside her. I should have held the line. She closed her eyes, then answered, I stand with the ones who remember. The room exploded in noise, shouting, anger, orders for her arrest. But she didn't run. Instead, she activated a memory burst, something she had stolen from the arsenal. A single human life. Projected across the council. They all saw it. A soldier, young, injured, holding off a ship alone. He begged his command to flee. He stayed behind. He smiled, even as the door sealed. His last words? Tell them we're not done. Tell them we always come back. When the memory faded, the room was silent. No one moved. The council saw for the first time the depth of human will, not just violence, not just power, purpose. But even then, not everyone believed. The Empire sent a fleet, not to destroy, to take. They believed they could copy the arsenal, strip it, study it, and build their own. Talari arrived back on Earth. As the first Imperial ships entered orbit, she met the human who had once spoken to her through the arsenal. He stood waiting on the icy plains. Calm, unreadable. They're coming, she said. He nodded. We know. Will you stop them? He looked at the sky. We won't need to. She frowned. Why? Because the arsenal isn't for us anymore. It's awake now. It will decide. The Imperial ships opened a channel. You are holding classified technology. Surrender it, or be removed. No response. They sent boarding parties. 10 elite teams, trained, enhanced, loyal. They entered the facility. They didn't come back. The arsenal showed them not what humans remembered, but what they had forgotten. Their failures. Their betrayals. Their hidden shame. One by one, their minds broke, not from pain, but from the truth they refused to carry. Talari stood outside as screams echoed below the ice. She whispered, they came to steal memory. But memory doesn't want to be stolen. It wants to be shared. The last Imperial ship retreated. The fleet commander's final message, this world doesn't forgive. The countdown continued. Days left. The arsenal was still charging, still gathering, still watching, and the real enemy was still coming. Now Talari knew her place. Not as a spy, not as a scholar, but as a witness, and maybe, if the time came, as a soldier. The real enemy has arrived and only the arsenal can stop it. Days left, then 6, 5, 4, and then nothing. The countdown stopped. No alarm, no light, just silence. Talari stood on the frozen ground of Earth, looking at the sky. Behind her, the arsenal slept, quiet, still, waiting. Humans didn't speak much now. They trained, they watched, they remembered, and far beyond the stars. Something moved. On the third night, it arrived. Not in ships, not in fire, but in shadows. Piece of space folded in on itself. Stars disappeared, signals went dead. Probes vanished without sound or struggle. They called it the Hollow, and it didn't come to fight. It came to erase. First went the moon, not destroyed, just forgotten. No craters, no remains, as if it had never been there. Then, orbiting satellites. Then, memories. Scientists in human labs suddenly forgot the names of their own machines. Maps lost cities. Leaders forgot their own wars. A mother looked at her child and didn't recognize them. History itself was cracking. Talari dropped to her knees. Her own mind flickered. She forgot her first commander's name, her childhood city, her sister's voice. "This is what it does," she whispered. "It doesn't kill. It unwrites." Inside the arsenal, the last chamber opened. For the first time in centuries, the core memory ignited. All around the planet, the air changed. Those who had touched the arsenal, soldiers, civilians, even enemies, felt it inside their minds. A voice. Not human. Not alien. A memory. If you can still remember, you can still fight. Humanity didn't fire missiles. They didn't launch fleets. They opened their hearts, and the arsenal began. First, pain. Memories of every fall, every loss. The cries of children in broken homes. The last moments of soldiers on alien soil. The silence. After disaster, they didn't hide from it. They shared it. The Hollow felt it and pulled back. Second, love. Humans standing together in burning cities. Holding hands after impact. Carrying strangers through flood and fire. This wasn't data. This was truth. The Hollow tried to erase it, but the more it tried, the brighter it burned. Third, defiance. The boy who stood between a tank and his home. The girl who coded a shield program after losing her parents in war. The man who whispered to the stars, "We are still here." The Hollow twisted. It had consumed 1,000 species before, but none like this. None who had turned suffering into structure. Above Earth, space cracked open. The Hollow reached forward, a great wave of forgetting. But the arsenal answered. It projected a single memory across the void. We remember everything. From every continent, human minds connected, not through tech, not through wires, but through feeling. Billions of emotions shared at once. Fear, grief, joy, hope, and a single message burned into space. We will not be erased, the Hollow screamed, not with sound but with silence. It turned, twisted, fractured. Its hunger was built to consume thoughts. But now it was facing something new, something alive, a memory that fought back. The sky above Earth shimmered. For one long second, it was as if time stood still. Then, the Hollow began to break. Its center cracked under the weight of memory. Names, faces, sacrifices, stories. The arsenal pushed them forward, not to hurt, but to remind. And the Hollow could not hold them. It didn't understand pain with purpose. It didn't understand love without reward. And it didn't understand a species that chose to remember, even when it hurt. And then, just like that, it was gone. Not destroyed, but pushed back, away, out. And for the first time in forever, it forgot nothing. Talari stood as the wind returned. She felt the warmth of human minds still echoing through her. Their stories, their losses, their hope. They did it, she whispered, not by fighting, by remembering. The arsenal shut down. Its job was done. Days later, the galaxy was quiet, not because of fear, but because of respect. For centuries, species believed power was in ships, guns, planets. But now they saw the truth. Power lives in memory, and humanity remembers everything. The end.